So you'll have to agree that it's not just me, and I know that you know what I mean. And you have heard this before, and I know it for sure, but I just like to hear myself speak.
I was a young guy playing in a place called the Silver Club on Evelyn Street in Rutland. I was living in my first apartment on West Street. I'm probably about 20 years old, I guess. Lights were about to be shut off. I was playing at a local club in town for about $25 and like free beer. I'm literally sitting in this one-bedroom apartment looking at my utility bills, looking for something to feed this dog that I had named Simon. I found an old rusty can of corned beef hash, you know? I'm not even kidding. I open that up and I'm heating it on the top of the kerosene heater, and I'm like, I'm going to split it with the dog because I don't even have dog food. I could have gone, to my mom or whatever, but I was trying to prove that I was like standing on my own, so I didn't want to go and get the handout from my mother at this point in time. And so I go to split this can of corned beef hash with my dog Simon, and he's so hungry he like pretty much steals even my portion of it, and I'm sitting there not knowing whether to laugh or cry. And I had this weird phone back then that was like a donut phone, we called it. It was a white phone. It was almost round. It was a real 70s kind of retro thing. And all of a sudden the phone rings, and I pick up the phone, and the guy says, "Hi, my name is Frank Chase, and I saw you playing at this dive bar last night in Rutland, and I was wondering if you'd like to come up and play at Cascades at that point in time," because he played at the Mountain Inn on Killington. And that was one of the last phone calls that was about to come through my phone. The phone was about to be shut off, so I'm like, who is this? And he says, "Well, that's Frank Chase." And I said, "Yeah, that sounds great." And he says, "The shows are 2 hours long, and I pay you $2.50 a show." And he says, "I need you for 2 shows on Friday and Saturday, each show, 4 hours, $500. And I just went from playing $25 and free beer and about to have everything shut off to being offered to come up to Killington.
Heading down the road to Northern Virginia, look up to the heaven, what did I see? What's that I see way off in the distance? Look like a freak calling out to me. Second thoughts may bring me down like this, but you can't resist the genuine me.
When I was a kid, I spent almost a year in Mary Fletcher Hospital up in Burlington with this kidney defect, and at one point was waiting for a kidney donation, but ended up not getting that. I have one kidney that works 100% and the other one, not 100%. I wanted to play sports, but I also knew I was never really going to pass any physicals. When you have one kidney, you're not going to be able to play hockey, you're not going to be able to play football. So there was a young guy who lived across the road from us. Lee Minard was his name, and his older brother was a musician. And I had a hockey stick, and he had a really nice Tiesco Del Rey electric guitar that I liked. And it was we're always, as guitar players, we're drawn to the shape of an electric guitar. Kind of very female-like, and when you're a kid, you're like, "Oh man, I want that guitar." And so I traded a hockey stick at like 12 years old for an electric guitar.
When I got to my 20s and moved to Vermont, I wanted to play guitar. And during that time period, I got a hold of a guitar, was trying to teach myself how to play, but the only music that I really knew was Grateful Dead music.
I really love playing the electric guitar still more than anything. So I'm 52 years old, and I still think about playing the electric guitar and the guitar all the time, to tell you the honest truth. And I grew up in Rutland, Vermont. When I was young, there was actually a lot of clubs. There was a couple of metal clubs, rock and roll clubs, more folky clubs. There was a half a dozen places in Rutland. So I saw a lot of music. Sal and Jack Elliott ran Sal's in Rutland. And so I was a pizza guy who wanted to be a musician, and next door at this little dive bar called the stoplight lounge. Bands would play, and I'd go over in my apron and sit in and jam with guys, and sort of evolved. You know, they even gave me a nickname back then. They would call me Reg Marinara. That was because I'd have marinara sauce on my apron, and I'd go and jam with these bands at the stoplight next door.
When I met Rick, what enthralled me with his style of playing and what he was doing as a musician was I would listen to him do all these different cover songs, and I totally admired and appreciated the fact that he made them his own.
Well, high up near a mountain summit stands an old log cabin great, kissed by all the winds of heaven as they passed it along their way.
Around 89 or so, I decided I was
In the springtime,
going to release an album. My aunt and my mother gave me a little poem one day that was written by my grandmother in the early 1900s, and it was just a little poem called Mountain Cabin. And when I read it, it just sort of read to me like a melody, and it read to me like a song. And that was one of the first, original songs that I can remember like writing, and it sort of just coming from thin air. After the Old Friend album was out, I realized that, if you were going to sort of leave something to the world or whatever, you couldn't just play, another stunning version of Margaritaville for everybody. Like, you were gonna have to write something that came from your own life and your own experiences. I can't really fake it, you know what I mean? So it was hard for me to just sit there and go through the motions. And whereas if you're sort of putting your energy into your own thing, and the people that you're surrounded with are sort of feeling that same vibe, then it comes out great.
I really wanted to play music my whole life. I wanted to be a musician, I definitely wanted to be a musician.
I mean, I always knew that I wanted to play music, but I guess I wanted to make a living out of it because so many people told me that I wasn't going to be able to make a living as a musician.
Well, who shall say whose hand did build it? Who shall know the love and throne? Yet we enter very softly, for we know it was someone's home. No, it's just
right now, being more than 25 years since I released Old Friend, and there's albums like Destiny, Sweet Life, Mother Earth, The Circus. There was one called Coming Home. Well, now this album that I'm working on right now is called Dreamers, and it's sort of a tip of the hat to the fact that I've been making a living in Vermont, and now I have two amazing kids, that are 16 and 19, and that's how I fed those kids, this whole time, and myself, and that's how we pay for heat and we pay for food. That's how basically, Heather and I opened this place, was making a living for your hands and your mouth and what comes out of your brain.
Once in a dream, well, I became higher than a mountain, and my head just flew straight through the clouds.
It takes a lot for someone to get the confidence to want to do that. There's definitely not a lot of people who make a living, whether you're a writer or painter or musician or whatever. It's hard to make a living as an artist, but I think that if it was easy, then everyone would do it, I think. The weird thing about your own home state is, like I said, I'm from Rutland, and it's hard. We play once a year in Rutland. We play the Main Street Park, and it's not any disrespect to Rutland, but there's not a huge original music scene there, and there's not a lot of venues that are promoting original stuff. There's not really anywhere. Most places, they still want to hear, cover tunes that they're familiar with. I'm interested in listening to other people's original music too. It's not just about mine. Heather's working on some great stuff right now, and I'm really proud of the fact that she became a really great musician just sort of by default and helping us out, and that she's also just writing her own stuff and performing and singing.
Rick and our friend Bubba, who has a recording trailer, those guys, they said they kind of tricked me into recording it, but before I knew it, I had 11 songs down of my own, and so now I was like, oh my God, I'm going to make an album. I'm going to make my first album.
Music-wise, we've traveled around in this bus, to New York City and Boston and out to Ohio and stuff like that, and we've played and been treated really, really well and been treated really not so well, But we found places that took care of the bands and fed them well and treated them with a little respect and had a nice vibe to them were few and far between. And we knew that we would like to do that, but just not on some sort of like big scale. We did talk about if we were going to open our own little place, you know, we definitely knew we would want to make pizza and make it kind of a little coffee house, kind of listening venue.
The Wild Fern kind of came to me and said, this is what you're going to do next, and everything else, we're all going to fit into that. You're coming here to hear music with food, and the two go together, and that's the top thing.
Well, we just wanted to make it like you were coming over to your aunt's house or your friend's house.
Our house. Taking what we love, which is food, music, and art, and putting that all in one place that's our own, and gives our band, which does cover everyone from Blake and myself with Rick to Rick's kids, but it's given everybody a stage to play upon that's kind of like your home stage.
We'll come in kind of for like dinner and the show at the same time, and they combine that whole little 90 minutes or sometimes, 2 hours of like hanging out, with food, with conversation, with people, but they listen to the music.
Your love for the musician goes up because that's how I get these fine players to come in and play this fine establishment.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to have a full house on this Thursday night.
Really, the main thing that I do here is really bagels, bread, and pizza. Just try to make really good food, do a good job at what I do.
Guys.
Hopefully that word spreads.
Listen sometimes to playback and stuff of just recent shows, and I'm completely thankful that I'm still like writing my own stuff and that I have a great band that plays with me. Both my kids are musicians too. My daughter Maya sings and plays guitar, and my son Ben is a massive bass player, also plays like tuba and plays guitar as well, and a bunch of other instruments. They come out more so Ben than Maya right now, but Ben comes out and joins us all the time and supports us. Heather's daughter Zoe has always been out with us on the road, so Zoe, Maya, and Ben have gone out with us since they were 5 and 7 years old out on the bus, and Maya works with us here at the cafe.
Should be dreamers too.
I feel like in the last 4.5 years since I've opened the Wild Fern, and I'm a bass player for Rick, we have 3 beautiful kids between us, and I just bought my first house. Combine all of those elements together, I feel like I'm finally doing everything that I want to do in my life. Like I'm totally fulfilled.
You can't really explain, it's so hard to contain, but you feel it will work out, or you might go insane. This is life. No one said it would be easy.
It brings me genuine joy to like cook and feed people. It definitely is a huge natural high. I'm lucky that I get to do 2 pretty powerful things in life. I never thought I would have a cafe, and I never thought I was going to be a bass player.
Now it's a 3-piece band, which is Blake, Gowan, Heather Lynn, and myself. And it's definitely one of the best lineups that I've had.
I love his music. I loved his music long before I was the bass player, and felt very connected to it in my own personal life, and certainly more connected to it in the years that we've now been together. It gives me a lot of joy to stand on stage and to play with him, and I've had to work really hard. They've stuck with me, both Rick and Blake, and I love it. I love what I get to do.
I never had any intention of including myself in the story. I knew the stories of the Wild Fern and the Love were far strong enough to stand on their own. I also knew all they needed were a set of ears and a lens. But what I soon found was that Rick, Heather, the Fern, and the Love include you and every soul by default. Whether it's in song or good food and conversation, everyone is welcome. During the filming of this documentary, I met people just passing through, artists, musicians, locals, friends, and truly what the Fern is all about. Love. These are special people in a special place. The kind of place that art's survival is dependent upon. A place where the dreamers can feel supported, be encouraged, and take flight. Thank you, Rick, Heather, Blake, and the rest of the Love family. This truly is a sweet life.
So be kind, do not talk before you finish that thought. I'd just like to say, have a good life.